Good morning.
Your Honor, my camera's not working, so I'll just talk to you. This is Doug.
You can hear us?
I can hear you just fine. I'm seeing you
Okay,
too.
great. Thanks, Doug. Can we go on the record? I believe everybody's present.
We're on the record, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Christine Burke. I'm a public utility law judge with the Public Service Commission. We're here today to start evidentiary hearings in case number 9664, which is captioned in the matter of the application of Columbia Gas of Maryland, Inc. for authority to increase rates and charges. If I could have appearances of counsel, please, for Columbia.
Good morning, Your Honor and parties. Carville Collins for Columbia Gas of Maryland.
Good morning, Megan Moore on behalf of Columbia Gas of Maryland.
Good morning, Amy Harakis with Columbia Gas of Maryland.
Morning. And for OPC, or is there anybody else here for Columbia?
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Jim, Your Honor. Here with Gary Appeal. We're having an issue with our camera. I'm going to hop out and hop back in quickly. It worked when we first logged in. We turned it off, and now we can't turn it back on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for staff?
Your Honor, Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff. And I would note, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Catherine McErlane on behalf of staff. And also with us this morning is Annette Garofalo.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. I was having a little trouble with my camera and my I thought everyone else did not have the invitation, so I was trying to send it to them. But anyway, Annette Garofalo on behalf of staff.
Morning. I'm just going to wait a moment to see if we can get Mr. Cleaver. Ms. Pugh, are you on? I can see you now. Can you hear us?
Yes, Your Honor. How is our sound okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Apologize for that.
That's okay. So we're here today to start evidentiary hearings. Mr. Collins, would you like to start? Well, first, I guess, are there any preliminary matters that we need to address before we begin?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you so much. We have just a few preliminary matters for your consideration and for the consideration of the parties. I'll start with our order of witnesses for today. Wanted to ask if Your Honor has our amended witness order list that was sent to you and the parties back on Thursday of last week, 12:25 p.m. and 12:28 p.m., 2 attempts. And if that's the list that everyone has, and if there are no objections, we would ask that this serve as our order of witnesses for today, Monday.
I did receive it. I do not have any issue with the list as it was presented, the updated list. Is there anybody else that has any objection to the order of witnesses?
Staff is fine with that order of witness, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you. The second item of a preliminary nature, Your Honor, is that Columbia Gas of Maryland will be arranging for Ms. Kimberly Cartella to adopt the testimony and exhibits of Mr. Mel Kusanovich due to the unavailability of Mr. Kusanovich throughout the hearings as a result of a medical leave. Ms. Cartella is available to answer any questions on this testimony. She will adopt it as her own, and just wanted to give Your Honor and the parties an advance notice of this. I don't believe that this is on the schedule for today, but just wanted to let everyone know, and that Ms. Cartella will be available for any questions that either the parties or Your Honor have on that testimony.
I do not have any objection to her adopting his testimony. Does anybody else have any issue with that?
No, no objection, Your Honor. And we were given advance notice of that because I do have one brief series of questions for Mr. Kusanovich. My understanding is that Ms. Cartelli can field those questions, and no objection.
Okay. And staff?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you all. Also of a preliminary nature, the witnesses that we have scheduled for today, they will be available and listening throughout the day. But I wanted to ask Your Honor what her preference would be as far as dismissal of those witnesses after today. Could that be arranged, or does Your Honor need to have those witnesses to be available on later days? Just trying to get a schedule and let the witnesses know as soon as we can as to whether they're expected to be available or whether they can go back to their regular jobs. And so I wanted to ask Your Honor of her preference on that front now.
Once testimony is concluded for that witness, and as long as there's no objections by any of the parties, I have no problem dismissing them for the remainder of the hearings, unless I hear otherwise from anyone else.
Yeah. Hi, Your Honor. Generally, OPC has no objection to that. I would just like to put in a placeholder. Often in these kinds of commission proceedings, the term that's used is, quote, punt issues or questions to other witnesses. And so to the extent that, one of these witnesses that would fall into the category that Mr. Collins described, if anyone says, oh, you should talk to such and such about that, we would just reserve the right to request the ability to question them on that, for that very specific reason.
Certainly.
Staff agrees with OPC.
Okay, so subject to that, Mr. Collins, we can deal with that on a issue by issue basis.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor, and thanks to the parties. Next item is I'm going to ask Ms. Moore to present a joint stipulation. This is an issue that has been resolved as between the parties. And if it's appropriate at this time, I would ask for her to present that information.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Earlier this morning, I did send everyone an email with this joint exhibit 1 of Columbia and staff. And I wanted to read through this joint stipulation and let your honor and the parties know that Columbia has worked with staff to come to an agreement on this issue. And we also provided OPC with advance notice, to which they replied they have no objection concerning this stipulation. Now that everyone has it, I'll quickly read it into the record. So this is regarding a joint stipulation of staff and Columbia regarding direct billing and allocation to Columbia from NiSource Corporate Services Company. So on this issue, Columbia agrees to provide detailed support and testimony and with associated work papers for the test year costs directly billed and allocated to Columbia from NCSC in its next base rate proceeding. This support will include 1, the total amount of dollars by FERC account that are split between Columbia and the other NiSource companies and other state jurisdictions. 2, the total amount of dollars assigned to Columbia by NCSC for those FERC accounts. 3, a breakdown of FERC accounts by allocation basis with a description of the allocator used by FERC account to separate the dollars in the FERC account between Columbia and other NiSource companies. And 4, the amount of costs directly assigned to Columbia and the amount allocated to Columbia according to the company's cost allocation manual. And we note that all allocators are listed in the CAM. So if there are no objections, Your Honor, Columbia would ask that this be marked as Joint Exhibit 1 of Columbia and staff and entered into the record.
It will be marked as Joint Exhibit 1. Are there any objections to it being admitted?
None from OPC, Your Honor.
Objection.
Okay, and hearing no objection, will be entered as Joint Hearing Exhibit 1 of Columbia and staff.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'll pass it back to Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Megan. Your Honor, while we're on the subject of moving things into the record, want to make sure that the parties have received and have before them the Columbia Gas of Maryland list of exhibits. This is a fairly lengthy list that was circulated over the weekend, and this will be the roadmap for the exhibits that we will be presenting and that the witnesses will be sponsoring. And if everyone has that, would like to propose to mark and move into the record a few of the preliminary exhibits, that is, exhibits that have been pertinent to this case leading up to the hearings today. Does everyone have that list of exhibits?
Yes, I received it. Do the other parties have it?
Yes.
OPC, okay. Please go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Mr. Collins.
Thank you. So on that list on page 1, Ms. Moore has already marked and moved into the record the first item, the joint stipulation. I would like to ask that the following exhibits be marked. First, the application for authority to increase rates and charges. That's essentially the initial filing. Like for that to be marked as Columbia Hearing Exhibit A.
So, Your Honor, maybe I could just have some clarification. So this is actually the company's direct testimony, I believe, right? Is that what you're moving in, Mr. Collins?
This is the actual application that accompanied the initial filing, counsel. It is 5 pages that was part of the initial filing. It does not include any testimony.
Thank you. No objection.
And
Objection from OPC.
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, just for efficiency's sake, What I'm headed to doing here, with the party's permission, is ask for the marking of the 5 A, B, C, D, and E exhibits. So rather than doing them one at a time, if I may, I'll try to consolidate them, since they are all of a preliminary nature and were a part of this proceeding prior to any of the proceedings today at the hearing. So again, this first item is the application of 5 pages to increase rates and charges, dated May 14th, 2021. The next is certificates of publication in connection with the pre-hearing conference that was held on June 10th. This filing was made on June 9th, and I'm asking that that be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit B. Third, the order from the Circuit Court for Baltimore City approving the motion for special admission of Mr. Brem. I would ask that that be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit C. Next, the certificates of publication in connection with the virtual public comment hearing that was held on August 26th. I would ask that that be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit D. And then finally, in this series, the certificates of publication in connection with the virtual public comment hearing held on September 7th of 2021. That I would ask be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit E, as in Edward.
Okay, Columbia's exhibits A through E are marked. Is there any objection to moving those into the record?
No objection, Your Honor.
For staff? Okay, those will be marked and entered into the record as Columbia's exhibits A through E.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then with that, that concludes our preliminary matters. Perhaps the parties have some as well.
Are there any matters, preliminary matters, Mr. Cleaver, for OPC?
Yes, 2 questions for Your Honor. The first question is this proceeding airing on the PULJ YouTube channel right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. We provided a link to our witnesses to watch. Okay, thank you. Second question, on Friday, the company provided some updated surrebuttal schedules in response to a recommendation that OPC witness Lafayette Morgan made in his surrebuttal testimony regarding construction work in progress and account balances in relationship to things that are newly in service, the post-test year safety and reliability plan. There's also this kind of moving level of rate case expenses. After I provided that information to our witness, he does have a slightly revised recommendation responsive to both of those 2 changed items. What I was thinking may be helpful is once he takes the stand, which will likely be tomorrow afternoon, I could, in advance of him taking the stand, I could share his updated surrebuttal schedules with the parties. I could file it in the case docket too, and then I could just enter it when I enter his testimony, if that's acceptable to Your Honor.
Yes, that would be acceptable to me. Any objection from the parties?
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Yes, that would be fine. Any preliminary matters from staff?
Staff has no preliminary matters, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Collins, do you want to call your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Let me just indicate to the parties that for the first witness, Ms. Poloni, the company has no live rejoinder, but I do understand that at least one of the parties has some questions for her. So in that case, we'll go ahead and put her on the stand and have her sponsor her testimony. At this time, what I may also just ask the parties for their consideration, if there are witnesses where we do not have any live rejoinder, and if the parties have no questions, and if Your Honor has no questions for that particular witness, if you could let us know, we may then propose that the parties all simply stipulate to the testimony and move it into the record, and perhaps that would make things move a little quicker and more efficiently through the course of the day and through the 3 days of hearings. So if there are no objections, we would ask that the parties proceed that way, and please just let us know as we go if you expect to have any questions or not. With that, then let me ask Ms. Nicole Poloni to please come to the stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poloni. Good morning, Ms.
Your
Poloni.
Honor, I just in advance, my power is flickering here all of a
Okay.
sudden. So hopefully that won't be a problem, but it's flickered a couple of different times. I just want to put you on notice.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes.
Please go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Poloni.
Morning.
For the record, would you please state your employer and title?
My employer is Columbia Gas of Maryland. I'm Director of Rates and Regulatory Affairs for Columbia Gas of Maryland.
And let me also ask you to just spell your name for the record.
Nicole, Nicole, Poloni, Paloney.
And do you have before you your direct testimony in this case,
Yes, sir.
consisting of 14 pages?
Yes, sir, I do.
And that would be testimony dated May 14th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to the testimony?
I do not.
Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes, it is.
And if you were giving this same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
Yes, it would be.
Your Honor, I would ask that the direct testimony of Ms. Nicole Poloni be marked as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 1.
So marked.
And Your Honor, if there are no objections, I would ask that Columbia Exhibit 1 be admitted into the record.
Is there any objection from OPC?
No objection, Your Honor.
Staff?
No objection.
Thank you. Her testimony will be marked and entered into the record as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 1.
Thank you so much. The witness is available for cross-examination or for questions from Your Honor.
Thank you. OPC, do you have any questions for Ms. Poloni?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Poloni. I can't see you, but I can see your name, so I know you're there. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
This is Joe Cleaver from OPC. We know one another from a number of cases in past years. So good to talk to you again.
Indeed, we do, Mr. Cleaver.
Ms. Poloni, if I could ask you to turn to page 4 of your direct testimony.
Sure,
Line
one moment.
17. Sure.
One moment, please. Okay.
Actually, on line 16, there's a section entitled Case Objectives. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you're asked to please summarize Columbia's objectives in this proceeding.
Mm-hmm.
And you state in response to that question, Columbia seeks commission approval to increase its base rates.
Hold on one second. I can't accept it. I have to get a yes or no. So repeat the question and have her answer that.
Okay, I'll start at the beginning. On line 16, Ms. Poloni, you see a section title there that says Case Objectives, correct?
Yes.
And you're asked to please summarize Columbia's objectives in this proceeding. Do you see that?
Yes.
And your answer is Columbia seeks commission approval to increase its base rates to recover the revenue requirement associated with the capital Columbia has invested and will continue to invest in its facilities as part of its accelerated pipeline replacement program and to recover costs to expand the company's focus on safety. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. When you talk about the company's accelerated pipeline replacement program, you're talking about the company's STRIDE program, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if I could, just one more question on your testimony on that point. If you could now go down one page on page 5 to line 15. Let me know when you're there.
Yes.
And the question is, why is Colombia filing a base rate case instead of using its approved infrastructure replacement and improvement surcharge? Do you see that question?
Yes.
And the answer is that the level of investment made by the company to replace aging infrastructure from year to year is such that the calculation of the infrastructure replacement and improvement surcharge consistently exceeds the statutory cap of $2 per month for residential customers. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. And when you talk about a statutory cap, again, you're talking about a statutory cap that's contained within the STRIDE law, correct?
Correct.
And that law can be found in Public Utilities Article Section 4210, correct?
If you say so.
Okay. Would you accept subject to check?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Poloni, you're familiar with the STRIDE law, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware that the law was passed in 2013?
Yes.
Okay. And is it fair to say that the STRIDE law allows a gas distribution utility like Columbia Gas to recover the projected costs of infrastructure replacement projects from customers through a surcharge on customer bills?
Yes.
Okay. And you would also agree that when STRIDE was passed in 2013, it represented a departure from traditional rate making in that it authorized the collection of projected costs as opposed to actual historic costs, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And the way STRIDE works is that a utility such as Columbia Gas files a 5-year plan with the commission that the commission dockets for an evidentiary proceeding. You aware of that?
Yes.
And the company's first STRIDE case filed in 2014 was case number 9332, correct?
I believe it was.
Okay. And in that case, the commission ultimately approved a 5-year plan for infrastructure replacement work that spanned the period of 2014 to 2018, correct?
Correct.
And in 2018, Columbia filed a new 5-year STRIDE plan that was assigned case number 9479. Is that right?
Subject to check. I don't know the exact case numbers. They all run together.
Okay. Subject to check. You'd accept that?
Yes.
Thank you. And that second STRIDE plan covered the years 2019 to 2023, right?
Correct.
So we're in the middle of what is sometimes referred to as Columbia STRIDE 2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when a utility like Columbia Gas obtains commission approval to embark upon a 5-year infrastructure replacement plan under the STRIDE law, the way it works is the commission approves at the outset the company's general plan for work and a budget for those 5 years, right?
Yes.
But then within each year of that plan, the company submits a project list for the coming calendar year of the projects that it plans to execute, correct?
Correct.
And based on the estimated costs of the projects on that list for the coming year that the company files every year within a STRIDE plan, the company derives a revenue requirement, correct?
Yes.
And the revenue requirement, the way it's derived with respect to those specific estimated costs, it's similar to the way that rates are always set, in the sense that you take an average rate base amount over the course of a year and you apply the company's overall rate of return to that amount, plus some depreciation expense, plus you incorporate the tax effects, correct?
Generally speaking, yes.
Right. If a utility with a STRIDE plan files a project list in year 1, like we just discussed, and determines a revenue requirement, the company then, whether it's Columbia or any company with a STRIDE plan, takes that overall revenue requirement, determines how to allocate it among customer classes, and then divides it by 12 to determine the amount of the monthly surcharge on customers' bills in the coming year, correct?
I don't know that it's that simple. I mean, you know, you divide it by 12, and then you're depending on what your residential charge is, your remaining classes are capped based on where your residential charge ends up. So
Your
for
Honor,
residential,
Your
it may,
Nicole,
That's a-
could you
that's
speak
a-
up a little bit, please? Nicole,
That-
you're fading out. Could you speak up a little bit, please?
I apologize.
If you could just repeat the last answer.
So what I said was that the residential surcharge is capped at $2, and that the remaining classes is capped based on the residential cap. I believe Mr. Cleaver is aware of that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Poloni. I appreciate that. That's a fair clarification. In the event that the cap is hit, the cap that you referred to in your testimony, that adds an additional aspect of how you determine the monthly surcharge for residential and then all other customer classes, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Now, assuming that there's a situation where the cap is not hit, and assuming that a company with a stride plan doesn't file a base rate case after their first year of their stride plan, we'll talk about that in a minute. When a company files the project list for the second year of its stride plan, the surcharge that appears on customer bills will increase each month because you're using the plant that was planned for year one to determine the revenue requirement, but then also you're basing your revenue requirement on the plant that's planned for year two, correct?
Your Honor, I think I'm going to object at this point. This line of questioning relates to the stride proceedings, which is a separate proceeding that has some connection to, but very little connection to, this base rate case proceeding. What People's Counsel seems to be asking about is, how does the stride proceeding work, and how does it proceed from year to year? That is not the matter that is before the commission today. We're happy to answer questions related to any aspect of stride, but so on the grounds of relevance to the base rate case, I'm going to note an objection at this point, because I don't understand where this is going other than squarely within the confines of Columbia's stride filing, and its updates and its reports, its estimates, and then its reconciliation with actual projects. And so I think we're running astray from the base rate case in 9664.
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
The witness explains that the purpose of this case is to recover this plant. It's most precisely at the center and the heart of this proceeding and why we're here, and it provides important context for the record that the company's lead policy witness explains is the driving motivation behind this case.
I'm going to allow to go forward with it, but within the confines of what she's testifying to, I think there may be other witnesses that may be able to address it better than whatever that line of questioning as far as the technicalities of the proceedings are. But go ahead, Mr. Cleaver.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Poloni, going back to your testimony, the excerpt on page 5 that I read into the record, and your reference to the $2 a month cap on surcharges, if the revenue requirement that's calculated based on the company's planned stride work, once it's allocated among the classes divided by 12, if that results in a calculated residential surcharge of greater than $2, the company can't recover the amounts above $2 from the residential class through the surcharge, correct?
Not through the surcharge, no.
And that's basically what you're saying on page 5, starting on line 15 that we talked about, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when a gas company like Colombia with a stride plan files a base rate case such as this instant proceeding, all of the stride work that the company has completed that's being used in the determination of the stride revenue requirement and therefore the stride surcharge, all of that plan moves from the stride pot, if you will, into the company's general base rates as a result of a base rate proceeding, correct?
Correct.
And so when you talk about the cap and the inability to collect all of the stride work, what this proceeding will do is it'll take a lot of the capital investment that's been spent through the stride program, and it'll move those projects into the company's general base rates, right?
Yes.
And that will have the effect of removing all plant from the surcharge calculation other than what doesn't get captured by this case. So the work that's happening as we sit here, say in September 2021 and onward, that will continue in the surcharge, but all of the plant through, I believe, is it July that the company has completed through stride will be moving into base rates as a result of this case, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you say in your testimony that Colombia consistently exceeds the statutory cap of $2 per month for residential customers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, since the stride law was enacted in 2013, Colombia has filed for a base rate increase every year since then, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. But before 2013, that wasn't the case, right?
I can't speak to that, Mr. Cleaver. I didn't start in my role until 2014.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ms. Plumey. Other than the stride investments that are the subject of this case, which the company is seeking to move in through this case, 9664, and the small amount that will be left in the surcharge after this case, all of the capital investments that the company has made through stride since the company's Stride 1 program began in 2014, all that's presently in the company's overall base rates by virtue of base rate case filings, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. And stride has the effect of growing the company's rate base, correct?
Stride has the effect of making the system safer. So because we are replacing age and condition plants that needs to come out of the ground.
I understand that, but I'm asking about its effect on the overall rate base when stride plant migrates into general base rates as a result of a base rate proceeding. It has the effect of growing the company's rate base, right?
Like all other plant that's placed into service as a result of the work that we do, it impacts rate base. Yes, this is no different than all of the other work that we do.
Is it fair to say that much of the infrastructure that stride is replacing is fully depreciated and therefore does not factor into the calculation of the revenue requirement up to its replacement?
I can't speak to that one way or the other than to say that one could reasonably assume based on the condition of our system, the age and condition of our system, that it is probably fully depreciated, but I can't say that for sure.
Thanks. I appreciate the answer. Understand. Thank you. Ms. Poloni, if I could take you back for a moment to your direct testimony, to page 4. Starting up at the top, looks like line 3, you talk about NiSource. Do you see that?
Yes. And
NiSource is Colombia's parent company, is that right?
Yes.
And you provide some historical background on NiSource. And then at the end here, I'm now on line 12. you explain who the NiSource gas distribution companies are. You state, I'm on line 13 now, Northern Indiana Public Service Company, which is called NIPSCO, Columbia Gas of Kentucky, Columbia Gas, when you say Columbia, you mean Columbia Gas of Maryland, Columbia Gas of Ohio, Columbia Gas of Pennsylvania, and Columbia Gas of Virginia. Is that right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. And if I could take you back down, I'm sorry to keep toggling back between pages 4 and 5. I'm back down on page 5. I'm on line 4. And this is in the context of you discussing why the company needs a rate increase. And on line 4, you say, further, approval of this request will demonstrate to the investment community that the Commission continues to support the need for intensified focus on pipeline safety matters, as well as the need for reasonable and predictable earnings. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Poloni. Would you agree, Ms. Poloni, that the STRIDE program is consistent with the overall NiSource strategy of rate-based growth?
I would not agree with that statement.
Well, how is it inconsistent with a corporate strategy of rate-based growth?
It's not consistent with rate-based growth. It's consistent with NiSource's strategy to provide safe, reliable service to our customers. And in doing so, we need to replace our facilities.
Okay, well, let me ask you a couple of questions about that. Do you have before you, Ms. Poloni, what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 11? It was furnished to council and to her honor yesterday.
Yes.
But could I ask you to go down to page, actually, let me identify this for the record. For the record, Ms. Poloni, I'm asking you about a document that's been marked as OPC Exhibit 11. It is entitled Investor Day. I'm looking at the cover page.
I see it. I see it, Mr. Cleaver. I know what you're talking about.
Thanks, Ms. Poloni. Let me just identify it for the record. The date on the document is September 29th, 2020. And it says, in addition to saying Investor Day on the first page, it says NiSource. You there?
Yeah.
If I could ask you to scroll down to page 37 on that document, Ms. Poloni.
So are you talking about the page that says planned growth, safety, modernization, and renewable investments?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. So I want to ask you a couple questions about this. This document, this page, this chart specifically, sets forth rate-based growth balances across jurisdictions and between gas and electric businesses. Do you see where it says that? Underneath of the bars?
I apologize. Could I ask for the page number again, please?
37.
Yeah. Council, it's page 37.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cleaver. I was on page 38, hence the blank look on my face. Yes, I see it.
Okay. And what this document shows is the year-end rate-based balances for all NiSource distribution utilities for the years 2020 through 2024, correct?
Yes.
And there's an arrow pointing upward that kind of follows the trajectory of these bars that says CAGR of 10% to 12%. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, does that stand for cumulative annual growth rate?
Subject to check.
Okay, thank you. And if you look at the top of this document, it includes planned growth investments, safety and modernization investments, and renewable investments that are all, quote, expected to drive robust rate-based growth. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. I could ask you now, Ms. Poloni, to go scroll down one page to page 38. Are you there where it says annual?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm sorry. Yes.
No problem. Are you there? I can wait if you need a second.
No, I'm there. I'm there.
Okay, I'm now on page 38 of OPC Exhibit 11, the NiSource Investor Day presentation of September 29th, 2020. Here at the top of the slide, I see it says annual NOEPS, and then in parentheses underneath that it says dollars per share. There's also a footnote associated with that phrase, and at the bottom of this page, it explains that that acronym stands for Net Operating Earnings Per Share, non-GAAP. Do you see that?
I do.
And just for the record, GAAP is GAAP, and that stands for Generally Accepted Accounting Practices. Is that right, Ms. Poloni?
Generally accepted accounting principles.
Principles. Thank you. Thank you. And you see here underneath of the bars, it says long-term, approximately $40 billion investment opportunity expected to drive continued NOEPS growth beyond 2024. Right?
I see that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Poloni, if I could actually ask you to flip back to page 37, I have one more follow-up question on that.
Okay. I'm there.
This page indicates year-end rate base growth for all NiSource utilities at the end of the calendar year 2020 of $13.9 billion, correct?
That's what it says.
And at the end of 2024, the expected rate base balance for all NiSource utilities is $21.2 billion. Do you see that?
I see that.
Okay. Would you accept, subject to check, that that's an increase of about 53% over the course of those 5 years?
I would accept, subject to some quick math, yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have your indulgence for just a minute?
Yes.
Ms. Poloni, if I could ask you to turn to page 33 on this document we've been talking about.
I'm there.
And here you see two columns. One is a blue box that says strong financial foundation.
I see both of them.
And then there's a gray box that says expected value creation.
I see both of them.
And the first two bullet points in the expected value creation box, the first one is the utility rate base growth figure of 10 to 12% that we talked about on page 37. It's referenced there. You see that?
I see it.
And then the second is the net operating earnings per share of this annual growth rate of 7 to 9% over 2021 to 2024 that we talked about on page 38. Do you see that?
I see that.
Thank you. I think I have questions about one more page. Ms. Poloni, could I ask you to turn to page 51 of this document?
I'm there.
This page of the NiSource investor presentation is focused specifically on Columbia Gas of Maryland. Do you see that?
It is.
Okay. And according to this slide from September 2020, Columbia Gas of Maryland's rate base was approximately $149 million. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. In calendar year 2021, the company's making about $17 million in capital investments through the STRIDE program, right?
Subject to check, approximately.
Right. And would you also accept subject to check that for the current 5-year STRIDE period of 2019 to 2023, that the company is investing anywhere from $16 to $18 million over those 5 years each year?
Yes.
Thank you. Turning to the right side of the slide under the image of the state of Maryland with Colombia's service territory in blue.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The figure there that says total investment opportunities, $230 million, what is that figure?
I need to check on that. Subject to check.
Okay. And when it says annual program investment range of 25 million to 35 million, what is the source of that figure?
The source, I would, subject to check, I would assume it's our capital budget.
Would the STRIDE spend of approximately $17 million per year under the current plan be included within that 25 to 35?
I would believe so, yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I have your indulgence again for a moment?
Go ahead.
Your Honor, that concludes my questions of Ms. Poloni. Ms. Poloni, thank you very much. It was nice to talk to you as always. Your Honor, OPC would move for entry of OPC Exhibit 11 into the evidentiary record in this case.
Is there any objection to moving OPC's Exhibit 11 into the record?
No objection.
I'm sorry.
No objection, Your Honor.
I hear you. I think I don't hear Ms. Garofalo. I think you're
put myself on mute. No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. It'll be moved into the record as OPC's Exhibit 11. Ms. Garofalo, do you have any questions of Ms. Poloni?
I do. I just have a very, very brief cross-examination for Ms. Poloni. Good morning, Ms. Poloni.
Good morning, Ms. Garofalo.
Ms. Poloni, on page 4, you lines 13 to 16, you refer to a number of Colombia companies as I believe as NiSource affiliates, but there's no, they don't appear to be incorporated. I just wanted to find out if they were separate companies.
Yeah, I believe they are separate companies, yes.
And separately incorporated.
It's separately incorporated, subject to jurisdiction in their state.
Thank you. On page 6, when you filed your case, you were seeking $6.3 million. And I was hoping you'd be able to tell me what % of that was attributed to STRIDE being moved into rate base.
I can't tell you that. We can certainly get that data request for you now, but currently, as I sit here, I can't tell you that.
Is there a witness I should ask, or would you prefer to give us that in writing?
I would prefer to give you that in writing, please.
Thank you. And Your Honor, would that be acceptable?
That would be, yes.
And just a final question. Have the federal or state tax rates increased since your last base rate case?
To my knowledge, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Maloney. I have no further questions.
Mr. Collins, do you have any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Just briefly for Ms. Poloni. Ms. Poloni, do you recall the discussion you had with People's Counsel on a couple of pages in the Investor Day presentation, pages 37 and 38, regarding projected rate base changes over a 5-year period?
Yes.
And in connection with that, do you recall People's Counsel's asking you about safety and modernization, which is indicated there in the top of page 37?
Yes.
Now, I know you were not in this position at the very beginning of STRIDE in 2013 when the law passed, but can you address the purpose of Colombia's STRIDE program from its inception and to the present day? And I guess that would mean starting in 2014 when it was first implemented, and a first phase was established, and then moving into the second phase to the present day.
Sure. The impetus of STRIDE from the outset has been such that we are looking to, the STRIDE requires an acceleration of safety and, what we call safety and reliability plan. Essentially, what the STRIDE does is it gives us forward-looking recovery to encourage us to replace pipe that has reached the end of its useful life. The purpose of this STRIDE is for us to be able to recover these investments, and the current regulatory construct in which we operate in is such that once we hit the cap, the STRIDE is no longer valuable. We need to move that plant out of STRIDE and into base rates. This is purely a safety thing. Yes, it's a balance, right? I mean, we've got to replace plant, and we have to recover on what that plant is. And the way that the law is constructed, the makeup of our company and the number of customers we had, it's the way that the numbers shake out. So the purpose of this, and across not just Columbia Gas of Maryland, but across the NiSource footprint as well, is to replace our aging infrastructure. And this is the mechanism in Maryland by which we do it.
And that replacement, is that motivated by a policy to encourage this sort of thing for safety reasons?
Yes, we have, as of 2020, I believe, and we can subject to check per Mr. Anstead's testimony, we have replaced all cast iron in our system. That was a huge safety risk. We were able to do that through the STRIDE mechanism, and this is a safety-driven matter.
Are you aware of any discussion or any opinion within the gas operations divisions of the company, whether Columbia Gas of Maryland or anywhere in the NiSource system, where the motivation for a STRIDE program would be to grow rate base?
No.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. With regard to the data request, how long would it take for us to get a response for that?
I don't imagine it would take very long, Your Honor. We'll do our best to expedite it for you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions subject to the response of that data request for Ms. Poloni. So I would ask that she be available should I have a question once we receive
Absolutely,
that
Your Honor.
But I don't have any other further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will then dismiss Ms. Poloni, and we'll call our next witness if you're ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The next witness is Rebecca Danhires. May I ask her to come to the stand, please?
Yes. Good morning, Ms. Danhires. Could you just spell your name for the record?
Sure. Rebecca is Ribeka. Danhires, Danhires.
Thank you. And could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
It is.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Let me ask, Your Honor, at this time, if the parties have any questions for Ms. Danhires.
OPC has no questions for Ms. Danhires. Thank you.
Staff?
Staff has some limited cross, Your Honor.
Okay.
Very well. Then we'll go ahead with the moving the materials into the record. And let me start then by greeting Ms. Danhires and welcoming her. Good morning.
Good morning.
For the record, please state your employer and title.
I am employed by Colombia Gas of Maryland, and my title is Manager of Rates and Regulatory Service.
Thank you. And do you have before you your testimony? And I'm going to just review with you the package. First, your direct testimony dated May 15th, consisting of 9 pages, together with 3 attachments. And do you also have your rebuttal testimony dated August 16th, 2021, consisting of 4 pages and 2 attachments?
I do.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
It was.
Do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to this testimony?
I do not.
Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
If you were giving this same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
It would.
Your Honor, I would ask that the direct testimony and attachments and rebuttal testimony and attachments of Ms. Danhires be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 2.
So marked.
And if there are no objections, I would ask that Colombia Hearing Exhibit 2 be admitted into the record.
Any objection from OPC
No objection, Your Honor.
and staff?
No
Any
objection,
objection?
Your Honor. Sorry, I seem to have a bit of a delay here. I
Oh,
apologize.
that's okay. No objection. Is that correct? Okay, I think, yeah, the sound is bad, but I think you indicated no. The direct and attachments, as well as the rebuttal and attachments of Ms. Danhires' testimony, will be admitted to the record as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 2.
Thank you, Your Honor. The company has no live rejoinder for Ms. Danhires, so the witness is available for cross-examination or for questions from Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. McElwain, are you questioning Ms. Danhires for staff?
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Danhires. Catherine McElwain on behalf of staff.
Good morning.
President Biden has not signed an increase to the corporate federal income tax rate into law, correct?
As far as I'm aware, that is correct.
And on page 6 of your direct testimony at lines 11 through 13,
I'm there.
okay. Yeah, thank you. You state that the FTRA is not an adjustment, but a rider to allow the company to make any future adjustments to its federal taxes outside of a base rate case, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it correct that the federal tax reform adjustment or rider does not include a specific adjustment and the future adjustment is not specified in the tariff?
I believe that is correct, yes.
And the tariff sheet number 136, effective date is June 13, 2021, correct?
Can you just give me 1 second to get there, please? You said June 13th?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
And this is a prospective effective date because it's possible that the rider may not be needed, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Moving on to tariff sheet numbers 54 through 546, it includes a proposal to expand the company's gas quality provisions with a focus on renewable natural gas, correct?
Correct.
Currently, Maryland does not have a renewable natural gas quality regulation, correct?
That is correct.
And generally, the purpose of expanding the company's quality of gas provisions under Section 21.17 of the company's tariff is to provide defined gas quality standards for renewable gas entering the distribution system, correct?
Correct.
And on page 54B of the tariff, give me a minute to get there, the bottom of the tariff.
I'm there.
Under the rules and regulations governing the distribution and sale of the gas, the tariff language allows the company to accept volumes of gas, including renewable natural gas, that fails to meet the quality specifications of the company's own tariff, correct?
Yes, that is how it reads.
And additionally, there are several differences between the company's proposed tariff and the minimum requirements for gas quality standards established by the Northeast Gas Association and the Gas Technology Institute, which is staff's preferred best practice for minimum guidelines, correct?
Correct. However, I would like to just enter onto the record, though, that specifications to this tariff language would best be for witness Hendricks.
Thank you. I will also talk to witness Hendricks about this. So where in the company's tariff are interconnection agreements, provisions, buyers of last resort provisions, associated charges or rates, administrative process provisions, maintenance fees in this tariff?
I do not have that information at this time, but we can certainly provide it to you.
Okay, I don't think that's in this tariff.
Okay, yeah, like I said, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look, and then, if something is available, we could provide it.
Okay, thank you. And currently, the company does not have a supplier interested in supplying renewable natural gas onto its distribution system, correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
And is there anything stopping the company from refiling these tariff pages to address some of the deficiencies that staff's identified in their testimony?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. No further cross. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, any follow-up?
Just one quick question for Ms. Danhires, related to Ms. McAleen's questions. Ms. Danhires, you recall the questions regarding RNG or renewable natural gas?
Yes.
Can you just give a brief explanation of what the company was attempting to do with the tariff revisions that are being proposed in this case concerning RNG?
Yes. So the company was proposing to add standard gas language should an RNG supplier choose to come on to the system. We provided requirements that we feel are necessary for that to happen. So no, we do not have anyone interested at this time, but it was a proactive way As we understand, RNG is kind of a hot subject right now with the utilities.
And as Ms. Mackerline was alluding to, there would be other options. I think what she was alluding to is the company making a direct tariff revision filing with the commission. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding, yes, outside of this case.
And would the company consider that as a viable option, as an alternative for the changes that are being sought in this case?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Danhires. I don't have any other questions for you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. If the parties and you are ready, we'll call our next witness, CJ Anstead.
Yes, please go ahead.
Let me give him a moment to come online and remind him to turn on his camera.
Yep. Hopefully you can see me and hear me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Anstead, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. If you could just spell and state your name for the record.
Sure. My full name is Curtis, C-U-R-T-I-S, commonly go by CJ. The last name is Anstead, A-N-S-T-E-A-D.
Thank you.
And Your Honor, we do not have any live rejoinder for Mr. Anstead, but we do have some corrections to testimony. So I'm going to proceed to ask him about his testimony before we ask that it be moved into the record.
Okay.
So good morning, Mr. Anstead.
Good morning.
For the record, Mr. Anstead, would you please state your employer and title of the company?
Yeah, employer is Columbia Gas of Maryland. My title is Vice President of Operations.
And do you have before you your direct testimony dated May 14th, 2021 in this case?
Yes, I do.
And was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to this testimony?
I do have two edits that I would like to make. The first one is on the cover page and would like to update it before the Maryland Public Utility Commission and strike Pennsylvania. The other edit that I do have would be on page 28, line 18, the last sentence under the MAOP. It states the 36 stations remaining. That should be 35 stations remaining. So strike the 36 and that would be 35. No other changes.
Thank you. And on that first change, that would be from Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission to Maryland Public Service Commission, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes.
If you were giving this same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
Yes, it would.
Your Honor, I would ask that the direct testimony of Mr. Anstead be marked as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 3.
So marked.
And if there are no objections, I would ask that Columbia Hearing Exhibit 3 be admitted into the record.
Any objection, OPC?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Objection
And from
from staff.
staff.
No objection from staff. Your
Thank you. The direct testimony will be marked as Exhibit 3 and entered into the record of Mr. Craig Anstead.
Thank you, Your Honor. And again,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
CJ, sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, the company has no live rejoinder for this witness. This witness is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
Thank you. OPC, do you have any questions for this witness?
No questions for Mr. Anstead, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. And staff?
Just one question, Your Honor. Mr. Anstead, I was hoping you could tell us when the commission could expect its first cross-bore report.
And just to clarify, the question was when to expect the first cross-bore report?
Yes, you talk about it and you talk about it. It's going to be coming. It's going to be coming this year, I think you say. It's on pages 28 and 29 of your testimony.
Thank you, counsel.
You said on page 29.
I'm looking myself. That's what I wrote down.
Okay.
Do you have a line number, counsel?
I did not write down a line number. I didn't think it would be a difficult question. I thought we could, it might be something that Mr. Anstead would have know. It just generally, I'm not looking for a date. By a month and day, I'm looking for 3 months, 2 months, that sort of thing.
I can give just a further direction to the witness, if I may. At the very bottom of page 28 and the top of page 29, there is a reference to cross-bore expenses and the commencement of when those expenses exceeded certain amounts.
Thank you. Yeah, I do not think it would take us long to be able to get the report. I would, again, just need to verify the information required within that report.
So just so I understand, does that mean it's ready to be filed, but there is some verification to be done, or does it mean something else?
Yeah, so I need to verify with the team to make sure that it is ready, and upon that we can submit it. Again, I would need to confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. I also had that question because it was also referenced in Colombia's last case. So if we could get a response as to when that will be available, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll get to work on that.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, staff. We will make that we'll treat that as a bench data request, and we'll have the answer to Your Honor and to the parties very promptly.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, may we dismiss Mr. Anstead?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Anstead.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Mr. Mark Oaken. If he is available, please join us.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sir, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. If you could just state and spell your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Mark Bennett Oaken, M-A-R-C, middle name Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T, last name Oaken, O-K-I-N.
Thank you, sir.
And Your Honor, we do not have any live rejoinder for this witness. However, we do have one change or update to the testimony. So we will proceed with having him sponsor his testimony. Good morning, Mr. Oaken.
Good morning.
For the record, would you also please state your employer and title?
My employer is NiSource Corporate Service Company, and I am the Director of Remediation for the Environmental Department.
And you have before you your testimony consisting of direct testimony of 12 pages dated May 14th, 2021, and included with that testimony a series of attachments, MBO 1 through MBO 6, all dated May 14th, 2021.
I do.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
It was.
Do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to the testimony?
I do.
Please tell us, starting with page number and line number, let us know your revision.
Okay. On page 9, line 9, the first bullet point says design and permitting activities through early 2021. It's strike out early and replace with late. Then on line 11, where it says remediation services in mid 2021, strike out mid and replace with late. Line number 12, where it says implementation of remedial activities on the Ops Center in 2021, replace 2021 with 2022. Line 13, implementation of remedial activities on the non-ops center in 2021, replace 2021 with 2022. And then lastly, on line 16, project closeout reporting as early as 2023, strike that out and put 2024. And those are all my changes.
And just for clarification purposes, Mr. Oaken, this testimony was filed back in May of this year. So these revisions, these simply reflect current developments and the latest update on timing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. And let me ask you just a few more questions about the testimony. Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
It is.
If you were giving this same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
With the following changes that we just made, yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, I would ask that the direct testimony and associated attachments of Mr. Mark Oaken be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 4.
So marked.
And if there are no objections, I would ask that Colombia Hearing Exhibit 4 be admitted into the record.
Is there any objection to Mr. Oaken's testimony and exhibits? OPC?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
From staff?
No objection from staff, Your Honor.
Thank you. The testimony and attached exhibits of Mr. Mark Oaken will be marked and entered into the record as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 4.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, the company has no live rejoinder for this witness. The witness is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Cleaver, does OPC have any questions for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
And for staff, any questions for Mr. Oaken?
Your Honor, if I may have a moment to confer with Ms. Mackerling.
Sure, go ahead.
Staff has no cross, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have any questions for Mr. Oaken.
Very well. Then we will dismiss Mr. Oaken and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Our next witness, Your Honor, if you're ready to proceed, is Mr. Stuck.
Yes, just one moment, please. Yes, go ahead. Is he available? Yes, I think.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Stuck. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And could you just state and spell your name for the record?
My name is Michael Bradley Stuck, Michael Bradley Stuck, commonly referred to as Brad.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Stuck.
Good morning.
For the record, could you please also state your employer and title?
My employer is Nice Horse Corporate Services, and I'm the Director of Supply Development.
Do you have before you your rebuttal testimony dated August 16th, 2021, consisting of 6 pages?
Yes, I do.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
Do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to this testimony?
No, I do not.
Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes, it is.
If you were giving this same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that the testimony, the rebuttal testimony of Mr. Michael B. Stuck be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 5.
So marked.
And if there are no objections, I would ask that Colombia Hearing Exhibit 5 be admitted into the record.
Is there any objection from OPC?
No objection, Your Honor. Thank you.
And from staff?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. The testimony of Mr. Stuck will be admitted as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 5.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we do have a brief live rejoinder. And I will proceed when you are ready with just a few questions and a brief discussion with the witness on one of the issues that he addresses in his testimony.
Yes, please go ahead.
Again, Mr. Stuck, thank you for being here with us today. Let me begin by asking, have you read Staff Witness Hauer's rebuttal testimony?
Yes, I have.
And this would be on pages 23 and 24 of Witness Hauer's testimony, recommending reporting requirements for future operational orders issued by the company.
Yes, I have read that.
I'll give staff just a moment to turn to Witness Hauer's rebuttal testimony, pages 23 and 24. And this testimony, these are reporting requirements for the proposed OFO, OMO penalty structure that you first proposed in your testimony, correct?
They are the OFO and OMO penalties first proposed by witness Dan Hires.
Correct. And she addressed those in her direct testimony, is that correct?
Correct.
And then on rebuttal, you have further addressed the subject, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how does the company respond to Witness Hauer's recommendation in rebuttal testimony at pages 23 and 24?
The company accepts the staff's recommendation.
How does the company propose to act on Witness Hauer's recommendation concerning reporting?
The company will provide the recommended information in the company's next purchase gas adjustment proceeding.
Thank you. No further questions. The witness is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
Thank you. OPC, any questions for Mr. Stuck?
No questions, Mr. Stuck. Thank you.
And from staff?
Staff has just limited cross just to complete the record. Hello, Mr. Stuck. Heather McErline on behalf of staff. From your testimony, it appears that there are situations where the market-based penalty or the existing flat rate penalty may provide a strong penalty signal that motivates compliance with operation orders that work to protect the distribution system's integrity, correct?
Yes.
So if both penalty structures, either utilizing a flat rate per therm fee or a market-based penalty, are mechanisms to motivate compliance with operational orders, wouldn't it be helpful for the company to compare the amount of operational issues ordered?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the complete question.
Sure. So if both the penalty structures, either utilizing a flat rate per therm fee or a market-based penalty, are mechanisms to motivate compliance with operational orders, wouldn't it be helpful for the company to compare the amount of operational issues ordered and the amount of compliance with them? It'd be helpful.
It would be helpful to compare the compliance with the orders. Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes, it would be.
Okay. That's all the questions staff has.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for Mr. Stuck.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then we will dismiss Mr. Stuck with our thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Stuck.
All right, thank you.
And I think I'm going to turn matters over to Ms. Harakis, who will call the company's next witness.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
With your permission, I would like to call Mr. Insko to the stand.
Yes, please. I just need one moment. Okay, Mr. Insko?
Morning.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. If you could just state and spell your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Craig Insko, CraigInscho.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Harakis.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Insko.
Morning.
For the record, please state your employer and title.
My employer is Nice Horse Corporate Service Company. I'm a lead regulatory analyst.
Thank you. Do you have before you your direct testimony dated May 14th, 2021, and your rebuttal testimony with attachment CI-1R dated August 16th, 2021, along with your exhibits 8 and 12?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes.
And do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to the testimony?
Yes, I do. As of Friday, September 10th, we submitted a revised Exhibit 8 to correct the total rate base. That number was updated to $187,153,571. That is an update to what was previously filed in my rebuttal of $187,412,407. And then also, as a result of that change on my rebuttal testimony, on page 2, line 1, the increase over the supplemental filing would be 1,385,701.
Thank you. Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes, with the changes that I've mentioned.
Understood. And if you were to give the same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed, with the exception of the correction you just made, the total rate base?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that the following documents be marked as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 6. And if you're ready, I could read the names of these documents.
Yes, go ahead.
The direct and rebuttal testimony of Mr. Insco, including attachments, and Exhibit 8, Supplemental Exhibit 8, Rebuttal Exhibit 8, Corrected Rebuttal Exhibit 8, Revised Rebuttal Exhibit 8, Exhibit 12, Supplemental Exhibit 12, and Rebuttal Exhibit 12.
Those will be marked for identification as Columbia's Hearing Exhibit 6. Is there any objection to the admission of this exhibit from OPC?
No objection, no.
Staff?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, was that no objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. The exhibits that Mr. Rockus just read off will all be marked collectively and admitted to the record as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 6.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, the company has brief live rejoinder from Mr. Insco, and with your permission, I will proceed with that at this time.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Insco, at this time, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions regarding the correction to rate base that you just made. Did you review OPC witness Morgan's surrebuttal testimony, pages 6 through 7, related to plant-related costs included in rate base?
Yes, I did.
And can you respond to witness Morgan's testimony regarding plant-related costs included in rate base?
Yes, just want to clarify a few points before I address the concern that was brought up by Mr. Morgan. He references accounts 106 and 107. The post-test year safety and reliability capital investments include both accounts 106 and account 101. For the calculation of rate base and the safety and reliability adjustment, those two accounts, 101 and 106, receive the same treatment, and therefore account 106 should not be included in Mr. Morgan's adjustment. He goes on to say there was no adjustment to account 107 in the rate base schedules to reflect the possible safety and reliability projects that were in the 107 balance as of May 31st, 2021, but then went into account 106 or 101 in June or July. We understand the concern, and we've made an adjustment to the May 31st, 2021 balance in account 107 for mains and services to remove the safety and reliability costs that were held in account 107 and have since been transferred to in-service in 101 or 106. The adjustment to account 107 had an impact of approximately $250,000 to the overall rate base number, which is shown in my Exhibit 8 revised rebuttal filing, which was filed this past Friday. The rate base then changed from $187,412,407 to $187,153,571.
So am I correct if I would say that the correction that you just made to rebuttal testimony regarding total rate base reflects the change that you just explained?
Correct.
Thank you. Your Honor, the witness is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
Mr. Cleaver, does OPC have questions for Mr. Insco?
No questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Staff?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a few questions. I did want to make sure I had the correct number before we start. Could you just give that to me again?
Yes. 1 second. The corrected number is 187,153,571 total rate base.
Thank you. Mr. Insho, does Colombia do any construction projects that are not stride eligible?
Yes.
And how are QIP and AFUDC handled for those projects?
Any dollars that are spent related to construction projects are booked to account 107, which is considered CWIP. And then as those dollars are in 107, they accumulate AFUDC.
And is that the same or different from the way stride projects are handled?
All construction dollars are handled the same, whether it's stride or non-stride projects.
Now, for the projects that are not stride eligible, why does AFUDC stop when those projects go into rate base?
AFUDC stops for any project, whether stride or non-stride, when it goes in service. So when the dollars are moved from 107 to 101 or 106, AFUDC stops accumulating on those dollars.
And what is the reason for that?
Because we are no longer financing the project. They're now in service. There's gas flowing through the pipe. It's used and useful at that point.
So when the company is collecting AFUDC, what is the purpose of AFUDC?
So AFUDC, I mentioned this in my rebuttal testimony, page 3, lines 16 through 20, I believe. It's an accounting and rate-making process, provides recovery of the company's carrying costs that are incurred to finance capital investment while the project is being constructed. This gives the company an opportunity to recover costs in rate base in the rate case or through a recovery mechanism.
So when you're performing these construction projects that are not stride, are you collecting any money specifically for those projects?
Can you rephrase that question? I mean,
let me try to make that clear. So when you are when Colombia is constructing a project that is not a stride project, and it is not in rate base, correct?
Right. It wouldn't go into rate base until we file the next rate case.
So when it's in rate base, then it is collecting a rate of return plus
correct
depreciation. A whole lot of things go on for that project. But before that time, it is being built, and what is used to pay? How is that project paid for?
That would be the company, basically the financing of the project. So we're not earning a return on it through our base rates. So the customer has not seen any of those charges yet. That would be the company financing the capital investment while it's being constructed until it goes into current rates.
And how does that treatment differ from the treatment given a stride project?
I mean, the only difference would be stride projects have the annual filing where we're projecting, estimating dollars for the next year. So you would get an earlier return on your stride dollars than you would a non-stride project.
Well, would it be fair to say that while that project is being built, the company is collecting money from ratepayers through the Stride surcharge?
That is correct. Yes, I believe that's mentioned in my rebuttal testimony as well.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Mr. Insko, has the company always treated AFUDC on Stride projects the same way?
To my knowledge, yes, subject to check.
Okay. Does the company have any other questions for Mr. Insko?
No, Your Honor.
Any other questions in light of my question?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Insko can be excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the next witness for the company is Ms. Bell. If you're ready, I will call her to the
Yes.
stand.
Yes, and I anticipate Ms. Bell will probably take a while, so maybe we can start with Ms. Bell and then take a break for lunch at some point, and then continue later. So we can just go ahead now, and then we'll see how far we get.
Understood. Thank you. With that, I call Melissa Bell to the stand.
Good morning, Ms. Bell.
Good morning.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
If you could just state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Melissa Bell, Melissa Bell.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Bell. For the record, please state your employer and title.
My employer is NiSource Corporate Services Company, and I'm a lead regulatory analyst.
And do you have before you your direct testimony dated May 14th, 2021, your supplemental testimony dated July 1st, 2021, and your rebuttal testimony dated August 16th, 2021, and rebuttal testimony dated September 2nd, 2021, along with the company attachments in your Exhibit 11?
I do.
Thank you. Was the testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
And do you have any changes, corrections, or updates to the testimony?
I do not.
Is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
It is.
And if you were to give the same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I request that the following documents be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 7. And if you're ready, I will list those documents.
Yes, go ahead.
The direct testimony, supplemental testimony, rebuttal testimony, and surrebuttal testimony of Ms. Bell, including all attachments, and Exhibit 11 and Rebuttal Exhibit 11.
And was there also a supplemental Exhibit 11?
I am checking the list. Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Supplemental Exhibit 11 as well.
Okay, those will be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 7 for identification. OPC, any objection to the admission of those documents?
No objection, Your Honor, thank you.
Staff?
Staff has no objection.
Okay. Those will be marked and admitted into the record as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 7.
Thank you, Your Honor. The company does not have any live rejoinder for Ms. Bell. So at this time, the witness is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
OPC, you have cross-examination for Ms. Bell.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Bell. How are you?
Good morning, I'm fine, thanks.
My name is Joe Cleaver. I'm from the Maryland Office of People's Counsel, the residential ratepayer advocate. Nice to see you this morning. Ms. Bell, in this case, Columbia Gas has provided, or Columbia Gas has filed 4 cost of service studies, correct?
That is correct.
And Office of People's Counsel, I'll refer to my agency as OPC. OPC witness Jerry Mearswa, he advocates for the use of the second of those 4 studies, the demand commodity study, correct?
That is correct.
And under the demand commodity study, distribution mains are allocated 50% based on design day demands and 50% based on annual or average daily demands, right?
Yes.
Okay. And such a study as the demand commodity study that Columbia filed, one of the 4, and that Mr. Mearswa recommends, that's also known as a peak and average study, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. In Mr. Mearswa's testimony, and you can tell me if you want me to take you to the line, but I'm not sure you need to for this question, but tell me if you want me to refer you. In Mr. Mearswa's direct testimony, he states that the commission has accepted the use of the peak and average method in 3 recent Washington Gas base rate proceedings. Do you recall seeing that in his testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. If I could ask you to turn to page 21 of your rebuttal testimony.
Okay.
Actually, let me start you at page 20. If you could go up 1 page, I apologize for that. Let's start at the bottom of page 20. Line 19.
Yes.
And here, you referenced the part of Mr. Mearswa's direct testimony that I just referenced. You say here, quote, on page 20 of his direct testimony, witness Mearswa references Washington Gas Light's 3 most recent base rate proceedings, case numbers 9322, 9481, and 9651, when supporting his argument that the demand commodity or peak and average method of cost allocation should be relied upon. You then asked, do you have any comments, and now I'm reading on to page 21, about the use of these cases and their relevance to Columbia's current case? And you answer here, I'm now on line 3, page 21. In my review of case number 9322, I found that only 1 cost of service study was filed. Furthermore, the commission in its order on appeal directed Washington or WGL to file a coincident peak and a NCP study. I have reviewed the commission order in case number 9481 and 9651, found that in contrast to witness Mearswa's assertions, the commission adopted WGL's NCP study. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's what it states.
Okay. Now, let me ask you if I could. Could I ask you to turn to what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 12? That was provided to your counsel and to Her Honor yesterday afternoon with OPC's exhibit list. It is the direct testimony of staff witness Afton Hauer in case number 9651. And Your Honor, I'd like to mark this for identification only.
So marked.
Are you there, Ms. Bell?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And here, in this testimony, could I ask you to, of staff witness Aftenhauer in case number 9651? Actually, strike that. Let me say this. Case number 9651 is one of the 3 Washington Gas cases that OPC witness Mirzwa mentions in his testimony, correct?
Yes.
And you, in your rebuttal, as we just established, you reviewed some part of the record of case number 9651 in preparing your rebuttal testimony, correct?
That's correct.
So you're familiar that case number 9651 is a case that the Maryland Public Service Commission filed in 2020, decided in 2021, where Washington Gas requested a base rate increase, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to establish that. Okay, and as has already been stated, but just to be clear, OPC Exhibit 12 is staff witness Aftenhauer's direct testimony in that case, 9651. Could I ask you to turn to page 11 of Ms. Hauer's testimony?
Okay, I'm there.
Okay. At line 4 here in this testimony from Ms. Hauer in that Washington Gas case, she's asked, please explain how the mains costs are allocated in each study provided by the company. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And again, this is the Washington Gas case, but Ms. Hauer answers, in company witness Gibson's CP study, main costs are allocated using an average of the CP data and total throughput. This is a variation of the peak and average methodology, as a true peak and average study multiplies total demand costs by the system's load factor to arrive at the capacity costs attributable to average use and are apportioned to the various customer classes on an annual volumetric basis. However, in the company's proposed CP study, the company chose to weigh the average and peak components equally, rather than using the system load factor to determine average demand. Do you see where Ms. Hauer says that?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any reason to dispute Ms. Hauer's characterization or description of Washington Gas's study in case number 9651 as stated in her testimony?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. And if you scroll down to Ms. Hauer's testimony on page 13, she explains why she prefers the NCP cost of service study for rate making purposes. And specifically, I'm looking at, again, page 13, line 7 to 15. That's where Ms. Hauer talks about her reasons for supporting a non-coincident peak cost of service study. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And as in this case, as staff says in this case, Ms. Hauer says one of her reasons here, it's reason number 3, line 11, it's supported by a long history of commission precedent. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And Ms. Bell, if I could take you down to page 15 of Ms. Hauer's testimony in case number 9651.
Okay.
And she explains, starting at line 9, she explains certain modifications that she's recommending to Washington Gas's NCP cost of service study. And she says that she replaced the peak and average allocator with the NCP allocator. Do you see where she says that?
Yes, I do.
And she explains that this replaces the peak and average factor with NCP results for every class except the non-firm class. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Bear with me 1 second. All right, now, Ms. Bell, if I could ask you to take a look at what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 13, and this was marked for ID only as well. This is the proposed order of Public Utility Law Judge Jennifer Grace in case number 9651, the Washington Gas base rate proceeding that we've already talked about and where we've just gone through Ms. Hauer of staff's direct testimony. let me know when you get a chance to pull up what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 13.
I have it open.
Okay. And just again, for the record, this is a proposed order of the Public Utility Law Judge issued in case number 9651 at the Maryland Public Service Commission. It's dated February 12th, 2021, and there was an errata to the original order, so it says errata at the top right. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bell, if I could ask you to go down to page 25 of Her Honor Judge Grace's proposed order.
Okay.
And about halfway down page 25, there's a new section in italics. You see the word decision. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And there, Judge Grace explains that evaluation of which cost of service study most closely reflects cost causation should be made on a case-by-case basis based on the attribution of the specific company's customer base and system design. And the commission should continue to be provided with coincident peak and non-coincident peak class cost of service study approaches, including non-interruptible peak study for evaluation by the parties. Do you see where Judge Grace wrote that?
Yes.
And then Judge Grace says, I find in this case, based on WGL's unique customer base and design, staff's approach in this case unfairly assigns costs unreflective of cost causation to non-firm customers. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Then she says WGL should continue in future rate cases to provide both a CP and an NCP CCOSS so that the commission can continue to consider the appropriate cost allocation in future cases. You see that?
Yes.
And then finally, she says, in this case, WGL's NCP COSS is adopted for the purpose of allocating rates. All right?
Yes, that's what it states.
Could I take you back to what's been marked as OPC Exhibit 12, which is Ms. Howard's testimony from case number 9651 that we talked about, again, page 12. Excuse me, page 11, Ms. Howard's testimony.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, and we've already gone through the description of the CP study. I read that into the record. If you look down here, starting on line 12, page 11, Ms. Howard explains that the company uses the same methodology used in the proposed CP study as it does in its proposed NCP study. However, mains costs are instead allocated using an average of the NCP data and total throughput. You see that?
Yes, I do.
So in accepting Washington Gas's NCP study, case number 9651, and rejecting staff's modifications, Judge Grace adopted a study that used the same methodology as the CP study that we went over, but where mains costs are instead allocated using an average of the NCP data and total throughput, correct?
Yes, it reads to me that the commission adopted a modified peak and average study utilizing the non-coincident peak as a component.
And total throughput as well, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, could I have a moment of Your Honor's indulgence, please?
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bell. Your Honor, OPC has no further questions for Ms. Bell. Those two exhibits that I've used in questioning Ms. Bell were marked for identification only. We're not, there's no motion to move those into the evidentiary record. So with that, that's the conclusion of the exam. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, do you have questions for Ms. Bell?
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, Ms. Bell.
Good afternoon.
The two-step revenue allocation methodology has been traditionally approved by the commission, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And in case number 9609, Colombia's last litigated rate case, the commission utilized a two-step process to allocate revenues in that case, correct?
Subject to check. I'm not aware of the case number. The last litigated case was 2019, I believe.
Okay. Wouldn't you agree that both staff and the company find that the residential class and the GS3, IS3/TS3 classes are currently under earning, and that a higher percentage of revenue requirement should be assigned to the residential and GS3/IS3/TS3 rate classes in this case?
Yes, I agree.
And the company proposes a residential customer charge increase of 15.99% increase, corresponding with the increase in the base revenue required by the residential class, by the residential rate class in this case, correct?
Subject to check. One moment, please, and I can pull up my rate design. But the company does assign a revenue increase to the residential based off of the overall increase.
And that assignment is not based on the two-step allocation method, correct?
No, the company did not do a two-step revenue allocation to assign the revenue increase. The company looked at the unitized rate of returns for each rate class and then moved them to proportion the revenue allocation to the rate classes.
Okay, and a 15.99% rate increase is a substantially higher residential rate increase than the commission has traditionally approved, correct?
I'm not familiar or don't have all the numbers, right at hand and everything. The residential rate increase is consistent with the overall revenue increase in this proceeding.
Okay, and you propose increasing the customer charge for the GS1/IS1/TS1 class customer charge by 25.02%, correct?
Yes.
Is a 25.02% increase a gradual increase?
The increase that was proposed for the the GS1, IS1, TS1 customer class is consistent with the results of the company's system charge study. That was exhibits 11E and 11F.
And that system charge study is not based on the NCP, correct?
There is no customer component in the NCP. And these are customer related costs that are reflected in the system charge study. So there's no allocation based on the NCP because the NCP does not have a customer component.
Okay, and does WGL, Washington Gas and Electric, the utility that you were just discussing earlier, have distinguishable system attributes compared to the Colombia gas system?
I am not familiar with WGL's system and their customer makeup.
Okay. Well, just give me one moment. Isn't it true that the cost allocation studies are used to develop a reasonable range of cost allocation analysis? That's why you submitted 4 studies in your testimony?
That is correct. The company believes that the studies presented provide a good range in revenue allocation to the customer classes. We don't believe that there's any one correct study, and we do believe that that is consistent with how most parties believe in general that are cost of service witnesses. So we provide the range that shows reasonableness of the allocations.
And earlier, OPC attorney Mr. Cleaver referenced Ms. Hauer's testimony in the WGL case where she replaced the peak and average factor with the NCP factor, except for the interruptible class, correct?
Yes, he did reference that.
And the interruptible class has different, that customer category has different incentives to operate on the system, correct?
Are you speaking for WGL's interruptible customers or Columbia Gas of Maryland?
Columbia Gas of Maryland's.
Columbia Gas of Maryland's interruptible customers, they are not treated any differently than our sales or transportation customers. The only difference is that they choose to buy their gas from us on an interruptible basis, and they're not charged the demand component because of that.
So their charges are different.
Their gas cost is different.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Bell, I had a couple questions. With regard to page 36 of your rebuttal testimony, you recommend, I believe it's line 5 through 7, that the variable rates for the GS2, IS2, TS2 class be increased to a single rate. Is that a requirement that happen?
Is it a requirement based on this proceeding?
Yes.
We've been trying, the company has been trying to move the TS3 rate class to the GS2, IS2 volumetric delivery charge for the past 10 plus years, over the course of the several rate cases. We're slowly minimizing the difference between the 2 rate classes. We do believe that 10 years has been gradual, and we would like to get them to the same charge since they do have the same cost of service.
So what, so you're saying that they do have the same cost of service. Do you have the analysis to support that recommendation to move them all to the same rate?
We did not do an overall analysis. However, again, as I stated previously, the only difference between the 3 rate classes is who they get their gas from. So the GS class gets their gas from Columbia Gas of Maryland. They pay the full purchase gas adjustment charge. The IS group pays the purchase gas adjustment less the demand charge because they are interruptible. And the TS3 class purchases their gas from third-party suppliers. So that the overall distribution system, their overall delivery is the same. It's just of who they get their gas from.
I believe in your testimony, and I'm trying to find it in your rebuttal, you recommended in response to Ms. Howard's recommendation for a study in your next base, the next rate-based case, that it be dealt with, I believe, in the company's PGA with regard to the justifying the aggregation of the volumetric charge. Why would it be better dealt with in?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't recall stating that it should be in the PGA. Do you have a reference for that?
I'm trying to find it. One moment. Perhaps it was your rebuttal. I'm going to have to find that because I don't have the site, but I will find that. And I can ask in a data request when I get the exact site.
Okay.
Mr. Rockus, do you have any? I don't have any other questions of Ms. Bell. Do you have further questions?
No, Your Honor, I have no redirect.
Any other party have questions in light of my questions?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, well, that was faster than I anticipated. Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Thank you.
I'm prepared to go. We have Ms. Lash next. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Perhaps we can do Ms. Lash's testimony and then take a break for lunch.
That works for me.
Okay.
So at this time, I call Candace Lash.
Ms. Lash, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. If you could just state and spell your name for the record.
Candace Lash, Candice Lash, Lash.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Paracas.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Lash. For the record, please state your employer and title.
My employer is NiSource Corporate Services, and my title is Lead Regulatory Studies Analyst.
And do you have before you your direct testimony dated May 14th, 2021, and your rebuttal testimony dated August 16th, 2021, and exhibits 2 and 9?
Yes, I do.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
Do you have changes, corrections, or updates to the testimony?
No, I do not.
And is your testimony true and accurate to the best of your information, knowledge, and belief?
Yes, it is.
And if you were giving the same testimony today, would your testimony be the same as when the testimony was originally filed?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I request that the following documents be marked as Colombia Hearing Exhibit 8. And if you're ready, I could go over that list of documents.
Yes, go ahead.
The direct testimony and rebuttal testimony of Ms. Lash, including attachment CJL-1R, Exhibit 2, Supplemental Exhibit 2, Rebuttal Exhibit 2, Exhibit 9, Supplemental Exhibit 9, Rebuttal Exhibit 9, Surrebuttal Exhibit 9, and Revised Surrebuttal Exhibit 9.
Yes. You'd like those marked for identification?
That's correct, as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 8.
So marked. Any objection from OPC?
No objection, Your Honor.
And from staff?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. The testimony and supporting exhibits of Candace Lash will be marked and admitted to the record as Columbia Hearing Exhibit 8.
Thank you. The company does not have live rejoinder for Ms. Lash, so at this time, she is available for cross-examination or questions from Your Honor.
Okay. OPC, do you have any questions for Ms. Lash?
No questions for Ms. Lash, thank you.
Okay. And from staff?
No question. No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. I do not have questions either for Ms. Lash. So with that, her testimony and exhibits have been entered. Without any questions, she can be excused. We don't have anything further.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I think we should take a break for about 30 minutes, if that's okay with everyone, and restart about 12:50. And it'll be the same WebEx invitation. I'll restart the meeting at 12:50. We can resume.
Thank you.
And that will be witness Harding, am I correct?
You're right, Your Honor. Correct.
Okay. We'll conclude for now and start at 12:50. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can go off the record.
We're off the record, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.